A very good morning to all of you. On behalf of Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, I warmly welcome you all to the 4th Research Symposium 2020, which has been brought to the online platform for the very first time in Sri Lanka. The CIPM Sri Lanka proudly presents the 4th Research Symposium for 2020 under the theme of Embracing the Changing Role of Human Resource Management. It provides a unique forum for HR practitioners, researchers, faculty, and students to present their scholarly contributions. This event is organized annually by the Standing Committee on Applied Research, HR Symposium, and HR Publications, which is a main event in the CIPM event calendar. With the sudden pandemic outbreak of COVID-19, the organizing committee of the Research Symposium decided to bring the symposium online and creating history as the very first research symposium that is brought to you virtually. After shortlisting and screening the large number of papers we received, we have chosen the best out of the best to present their research presentations with us today. We have mainly categorized all papers we received under 3 categories. Category A, CIPM members and HR professionals. Category B, CIPM students. And Category C, university presenters. As you all know, the technical sessions are conducted parallelly. I will be the host for the Category C University presenters. To start with the session, let me first call upon the first participant to present her abstract in front of you. Please welcome Ms. M.N. Madhuvanti, who will be presenting the presentation on effect of gender and location on career indecision among management undergraduates in Sri Lanka state universities, which was co-authored by Mr. K.G. Priyashantha.
Good afternoon, and I welcome all of you to my oral presentation on effect of gender and location on career indecision among management undergraduates in Sri Lankan state universities. I am Ms. Aksara Madhuvanti. My co-author is Mr. K.G. Priyashantha. Now I am going to describe these points. When it comes to the context, graduates passing out from state universities are being considered as a significant resource, which would be benefit the overall economy of the country in the long run. By spending such money on free education and higher education, our government is expecting a full caliber from the graduates. But when it comes to the practical scenario, we can identify the graduates are experiencing with a complex issue called career indecision. So, career indecision refers to the inability to resolve on a particular chosen profession. When it comes to the gap of this research, this phenomena has been explored by many research throughout several decades, mainly to identify the factors contributing to the career indecision among individuals in a Western context. So, it is very difficult to compare Sri Lankan results, Sri Lankan context with the foreign context or Western context due to the cultural setting differences, demographic differences, and economical disparities. So, none of them focused on university students in Sri Lankan context in order to identify the effect of gender and the location on career indecision. So, research identified this as the research gap. When it comes to the justification of my problem, statistical data on unemployment trends can be seen in this way. So, unemployment rate by selected educational level, according to the male ratio, it's a 4.9. The female ratio, it's 11.9. When it is apparent that unemployment rates have either varied relating to risen. Then, when it comes to justification, the career indecision hampers not only the personal advancement of the job seeker, but it's undermined the expansion of the national economy. So, the number of graduates who are engaged in vital professions are far less than the number of graduates who far greater than the number of graduates who are employed in the unimportant professions. By meaning the unimportant, I meant the non-value added or less value added professions. So these posts were created. These non-value added or less value added positions were created in order to find out the solution for graduate unemployment. But the effectiveness and the efficiency of these kind of professions are very less. So I have identified that gap is that issue is a major issue in the this context. So when it comes to the gender, the poor labor force participation can be seen in the females. So it is attributed in decisive nature. So due to the cultural constraint, I think it may be somewhat partial issue. Then it comes to the location. The geographical location of the university is commonly held perception that provisions of all sorts of facilities is higher within the universities, close proximity to the city center. But when it comes to the university rankings and the universities and their locations, we can see there is some kind of disparity. I think people have the myth and the people have the perception that the people who are graduated from the metropolitan or urban universities have more caliber than the rural universities. That's the myth, that's a perception. So in this study, I wanted to question whether there is any significant impact upon being career decisive based on the gender and the geographical location of the university. So in order to find out the solution to this research question, my research objective is to explore the significance on career decision among management undergraduates in state universities in Sri Lanka by gender-wise segregation and the physical location of the educational institute. These are my hypotheses. The student being a male or female is significant impact on being career indecisive. Hypothesis 2, the geographical location of the university has a significant impact on career indecision. So when it comes to the methodology, I used descriptive research design, and my research site is management faculties in Sri Lankan state universities. The population was all management undergraduates in state universities in Sri Lanka. Example, 345 final year management undergraduates from state universities of University of Ruhuna, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, University of Colombo and Sabaragamulla. 4 universities categorized into 2 major categories such as rural and the metropolitan universities based on the criteria of proximity to the city center. So, I consider University of Colombo and University of Sri Jayawardhanapura as metropolitan university, University of Ruhuna and the University of Sabaragamulla as rural university based on the criteria of the proximity to the city center. Then I used convenience sampling and used the data collection methods, both primary and secondary, analytical methods such as mean value independent sample details. Then these are the demographics of my sample. Male force participation, male participation 38.1 and the female participation 61.9. Then these are the 4 universities and their respondent rates, their contribution to the sample. And I have categorized these 4 universities into 2 major university criteria like metropolitan and rural. Those are the demographics of those things. When it comes to the finding out testing the hypothesis, impact upon the gender, mean value of the male is somewhat higher than the female. It gives some clue. The male's career decision is higher, but researcher wanted to identify the significance of them. In order to identify the significance, I have used the equal variance, not assumed. Rho, its significance is 0.017. So it is less than the 0.05. That means the hypothesis is accepted, and male persons have more career indecisive than the female. Then impact upon the location. When you see the mean value, we can see rural universities has somewhat higher mean value. When it comes to the equal variance not assumed, it is greater than 0.05. So there is no, the impact of location is insignificant to the career decision. So these are my hypothesis testing results. I was expected significant impact for both hypothesis 1 and 2. The significant actual results with, for hypothesis 1 is significant impact, hypothesis 2 insignificant impact. So hypothesis 1 supported and hypothesis 2 not supported. This is the conclusion of my study. I have achieved my research objective. The career indecisiveness was higher among males, and geographical location of the state universities was proved to be insignificant in terms of the career indecisive. These findings would be beneficial to the undergraduates, policymakers, society as large, and the devising human resource development programs. So these are my key references that I have used. That brings me to the end of the presentation. I really appreciate the attention that you have got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Madhuvanti. Next, I invite Mr. Giganige Veerasiri to present his presentation on the impact of strategic human resource management on environmental performance with special reference to managerial employees in apparel industry, which was co-authored by Mr. K.J. Prashantha and Ms. M.N. Madhuvanti.
Good morning, dear sirs, madam, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Giganage Veerasiri, engineer by profession, and we have two co-authors for this research presentation. Mr. Prashantha, senior lecturer of University of Pune, and also Ms. Madhuvanti, temporary lecturer. Today, what we are going to present here is the impact of strategic human resource management on environmental performance with a special reference to managerial employees in apparel industry in Sri Lanka. Here the introduction, everybody know that with the industrial revolution, most of the productions were not environmentally friendly in the long run. And because of that reason, there were severe damages caused to the environment, and also it created physical, psychological, and behavioral disorders in people. Contemporary industries are faced with many pressures as a result from shareholders and stakeholders to develop environmentally responsible activities. The human resource management functions have an important role to play both in developing and implementing sustainability strategy. A favorable internal eco-friendly environmental orientation helps achieve the environmental performance through strategic human resource management. Here the research gap, what we noted was, many researchers have explored to identify the link between HRM and environmental performance throughout several decades in many Western countries and also in China. But we noted the research done in this arena of phenomena in Sri Lanka is quite lacking. So problem identification. Here the industrial pollution is becoming a burning issue in Sri Lanka. If I come to you with some examples, Mahavir was seriously affected by factories discharging effluents, dyes, chemicals into its waters. As a result, Alamur area, the people got affected seriously. And disposal of untreated effluents from army camps and prisons into the close by water resources in Anuradhapura that affected 40,000 people there seriously. And also recently, everybody know that the agitation at Radhapasala that ended with some deaths. And also we know that pre-trade zone are one of the principal sources of producing highest industrial waste. Many complaints such as inland water pollution, soil pollution, unauthorized dumping and improper waste management practices are visible in Sri Lankan context. This is, of course, due to lack of strategic concern on environment protection by the top management. Not only that, there are in Sri Lanka and other countries as well, deforestation, soil erosion, dam situation, garbage pollution, coastal degradation, freshwater pollution, urban and industrial waste disposal, atmospheric pollution. Those are also some of the environmental issues. And research questions. In this research, the general question is how internal environmental orientation mediates strategic human resource management on environmental performance. The specific questions: what is the impact of strategic human resource management on environmental performance? The next one is, what is the impact of internal environmental orientation on environmental performance? And also, the next question is, what is the impact of strategic human resource management on internal environmental orientation? So the research objectives, the general objective, to examine the link between strategic human resource management and environmental performance. The specific objectives, to identify the impact of strategic human resource management on environmental performance, and also to identify the impact of internal environmental orientation on environmental performance. Similarly, to identify the impact of strategic human resource management on internal environmental orientation. And this is the conceptual framework we developed. Here, strategic human resource management and internal environmental orientation. The dependent variable is environmental performance. And also, we have 3 hypotheses. So, hypothesis 1, strategic human resource management has positive impact on environmental performance. Hypothesis 2 gives internal environmental orientation has a positive impact on environmental performance. And hypothesis 3 says SHRM has a positive impact on internal environmental orientation. So, findings, you will see marital status, age, and also the responders. Some of these findings we jotted down here. And data presentation and analysis. Here, Conrad alpha coefficients, their strategic human resource management, internal environmental orientation, and also the dependent variable environmental performance. Here, Conrad alpha values and number of items we have given in this table. Here, strategic human resource manager 0.812, internal environmental orientation 0.832, environmental performance 0.811. And zero order Pearson's correlation variables. Here also we have given in this table. Here, EP and IEO 0.649, SHRM EP 0.729, SHRM IEO 0.456. And overall model with regression coefficients data. Here we have given strategic human resource management and environment progression. Here p value equals 0.714, SHRM and internal environmental orientation here 0.761, and internal environmental orientation and between the internal environmental orientation and the environmental performance 0.299. So hypothesis testing, we have found here the strategic human resource management has a positive impact on environmental performance. This is our hypothesis 1. And their expected outcome that was positive, actual result was positive, therefore it is supported. And hypothesis 2, internal environmental orientation has a positive impact on environmental performance. There also expected outcome, it was to be positive, and actual results was positive, and it's supported with the model. And H3, hypothesis 3, strategic human resource management has a positive impact on internal environmental orientation. Here the expected outcome that is also positive, and actual results confirm it is positive and also supported. So conclusion. Here with this research, what we can say at last, in the end, the strategic human resource management has a strong positive relationship with both internal environmental orientation and the environmental performance. It further identifies that the internal environmental orientation has a strongly positive relationship with the environmental performance. And also, we can conclude this waves to a new focus more on selecting, training, and rewarding employees for their environmental friendly practices in the workplace that generates an environmental protection culture beneficial to a firm's environmental performance. And also we could say this research, according to these findings and designing and also analysis, in some organizations, these results could be made help for those purposes, and also sustainable development is one of the key factors, and that can be seriously considered based on these data. And key references, we have jotted down some of the key references we have gone through. So this is the end of my presentation, and also thank you so much, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all officials of CIPM for giving us this opportunity to present this paper for this symposium, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Veerasiri. Now I invite Ms. L.A.T. Madhuvanti to present her presentation on how does spousal support impact on intention to quit, a study of married operational level employees in the apparel industry, which was co-authored by Ms. Prabhashini Vijayavantha.
Hello everyone. I am Prabhashini Vijayavantha, Senior Lecturer attached to the Department of Human Resource Management, Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies, University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Today I am going to present a study undertaken by one of my students, an undergraduate student under my supervision and guidance. The title of our study is How Does Spousal Support Impact on Employee Intention to Quit? This study is undertaken among the married operational level employees in the apparel industry of Sri Lanka. This is the outline of the presentation that I will take you through. Let me begin with a basic introduction where I will provide you with the background that created the background for the study. And then I'll move on to highlight the current research gap in this area, and then thereby I will move on to the objectives of this research study. Thereafter, I will present the conceptual framework that we developed using the relevant theoretical and empirical support and the hypothesis generated. Next, I will explain to you the methodology followed in undertaking this study and the results of the data analysis process. And thereafter, I will explain the findings and the conclusion of the study. And my presentation will end up with the key references. So let me begin with the background or the introduction of the study. As we all know, high labor turnover is a major challenge faced by any organization in Sri Lanka as well as around the world. And this high labor turnover among the operational level employees is a major challenge faced by the Sri Lankan apparel industry. And as a result, we always need to focus in our research studies about employee intention to quit. Why? Because employee intention to quit is considered as one of the most reliable predictors of employee voluntary turnover. So when you look at employee voluntary turnover and employee intention to quit, it could be observed that operational level employees in the apparel industry of Sri Lanka. When we talk about the operational level employees, we focus on the sewing machine operators and especially the quality controllers. These levels or these categories of employees leave or quit their current jobs on a daily basis. Why? They go in search of better pastures in terms of better working conditions, low workloads and higher rewards with other organizations. Actually, this is kind of a misperception because these employees leave their current organizations and join others, assuming that these options or facilities are available with other organizations. However, there are limited empirical studies undertaken on this area. Despite the limited empirical studies undertaken, the theories available in the management field, such as the social support theory and the social exchange theory and the organization support theory, explain that there could be an impact of spousal support on the employee intention to quit. And also there could be an impact of work-family conflict of employees on this intention to quit. And prior studies on employee intention to quit or employee turnover have only investigated the factors related to the work environment as antecedents. So because they assume that the employee turnover or intention to quit is largely dependent on the work environment related factors like working conditions, supervisory support, co-worker support, organizational support, and remuneration and rewards. Though these are often studied as antecedents, most of the researchers have neglected non-work related factors. So it is important to pay our attention on the impact of non-work related factors on employee intention to quit. So as I mentioned previously, there is sufficient theoretical support, though there is no sufficient empirical support available that confirms that non-work factors contribute to employee turnover decisions. So it is important to pay our attention to non-work and cross-domain variables such as spousal support, which is a non-work factor, and also work interference with family conflict, which is a cross-domain variable in looking at employee intention to quit. So taking the above aforementioned lacuna in research, this research study was undertaken with the following objectives. First, to identify whether there is spousal support has a negative impact on employee intention to quit. To identify whether spousal support has a negative impact on employee work-family conflict. To identify whether work-family conflict has a positive impact on employee intention to quit. And to identify whether work-family conflict mediates the relationship between spousal support and intention to quit. So this is the conceptual framework that is developed for the study based on the above aforementioned research objectives. So H1, H2 and H3 are direct hypotheses, whereas H4 tests the mediation effect. So these are the hypotheses that are expected to be tested in this study. So these are almost the same as the research objectives spelled out earlier. And due to the time constraints, I am not going to read out them. So this slide explains the methodology followed by the researcher in undertaking this research study. So this is a purely quantitative research study undertaken by using primary data. The population of this study are married operational level employees in the apparel sector of Sri Lanka. And out of this population, we selected a convenient sample of 105 operational level employees. And as such, the unit of analysis is individuals. The primary data were collected following the cross-sectional survey strategy by using a self-administered structured question developed using well-accepted standard measures. So here I have indicated the sources from which the student obtained the measures to develop the questionnaire. So then let me move on to the findings of the study. Upon collecting data, the data were entered into the SPSS version 23 software and initially the data cleaning process was undertaken. After that, the preliminary analyses were performed and then the researcher moved on to the hypothesis testing, which was done using the correlation and the regression analysis. So the first hypothesis of the study was supported by the data as shown here, confirming that there is a strong negative relationship and an impact of spousal support on employee intention to quit. The second hypothesis of the study was also supported by the data, confirming that spousal support has a significant negative impact on work-family conflict of employees. Thirdly, the work-family conflict has a significant positive impact on intention to quit. This hypothesis was also supported by the data, confirming a strong positive impact. Next, the Sobel test and the mediation analysis were performed to confirm the mediation effect, and a partial mediation was supported by the data. Thus, it could be concluded that there is a significant negative impact of spousal support and work-family conflict on intention to quit of married operational level employees in the apparel sector of Sri Lanka. Further, there is a significant negative impact of spousal support on employee work-family conflict. There is a significant positive impact on work-family conflict on employee intention to quit. And furthermore, work-family conflict mediates the relationship between spousal support and employee intention to quit. I conclude my presentation, and this is the list of key references. So, thank you very much for your participation and patience in listening to our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was very interesting. Next, I invite Mr. Tivankar Mailava to present his presentation on the impact of smart classroom on students' academic success in government schools of Sri Lanka, a conceptual framework for future research, which was co-authored by Ms. Pyumika Sajani Chandrasiri, Mr. Dilip Chandrasena, Mr. Dilukshan Jesudasan, and Mr. Sajeev Kant Kirubakaran.
Hello there, everyone. I hope you all stay safe at your home. So, I'm Tivankar Mailava, who is an undergraduate at Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology. So, this is our fourth CIPM Research Symposium, which is held throughout the Zoom. So, this is a conceptual framework paper for future research, and the title, which is The Impact of the Smart Classroom on Academic Success of Sri Lankan Government School Students. So let's first go throughout the overview. There are major 8 chapters in this overview. They are introduction, research question, research objective, methodology, findings, conceptual framework, conclusion, and the last key references. So when we're moving to the introduction, smart classrooms are using internet learning system and sharing information. That means smart classrooms are always based with the internet. And the smart concept is beginning with the internet. Smart means more updated in every sector. So it should be attractive and it should be motivated to the students to learn freely and increase their performance. We all know that internet-based education systems are very free for all the students to make their academic performance in a high grade. And also there are 9,790 schools, government schools in Sri Lanka. But we say that unfortunately it's only used, 13 schools are using smart classrooms because of they don't have enough facilities from the government. And the smart classroom is one of the essential tools to convert the traditional education system into more realistic and a modern education system. And in this 21st century, all the things are depending with the technology. So the educational sector also, it's really very common. So when it comes to converting the traditional system for a more updated and modern way, smart classrooms are in highly recommending to do this change. And also many countries like USA, the UK, Australia, India, Malaysia, likewise those countries are already using smart classroom facilities for their children. Moving to the next slide is about our research question, or it can be say as the research gap. So what are the determinant factors of smart classroom which has implications for student academic success? This is our research question, and in order to that, research objective is to identify the determinant factors of smart classroom which implicates the student academic success. Moving to the next slide. It's all about the methodology. So this is only a concept paper. We have used secondary data as our data collection, and past research articles were used for that. And this study is conducting a deductive approach, and the analysis part also done with the past research articles, and we have came to a conclusion from those past articles. So those are our main findings in this study. We have identified 5 major components which is implicates for the smart classrooms. First one is availability. Availability means the smart classroom should have several ways of learning sources. It can be hardware or software. As an example, we can take projectors, laptops, whiteboards, multi-screen sharing. Many other digital devices can be taken as the availability. And the next one is the comfortability. We think that this is the most important thing when it comes to a smart classroom, because it is always dealing with the technology. When students feel comfortable at the class, they can concentrate well about their academic success. So in order to this, comfortability is a highly recommending factor for the smart classroom, because it should be environment friendly, and it should motivate students to improve their success in the academic stuffs. And also in the personalization, this is referring to ask question about the situation or academic level. And that means when it's dealing with internet, the student have the ability to learn from themselves, not guiding by someone else. So continuing that, fourth finding is about the adaptability. Students are more likely to take their own freedom to adapt for the new conditions. As we already told that this is a new system, and moving the traditional education system for a technology-based education. In this sector, adaptability means adapting for these new systems, for a new situations. And also, as we totally taking as the smart classroom, students are highly motivated to work with them, as they always like to deal with the technological devices, because this is the 21st century. So everyone, it can be children, adults, anyone who are likely to use with the technology-based things for every sector, and it's very common for the education sector as well. So this is the conceptual framework of this study, and this is the most important finding of our research. And We have identified 5 independent variables. They are smart classroom, comfortability, adaptability, availability, and personalization. And the dependent variable is always is academic success. From that, we have created 5 hypotheses, which is showing the significant relationship between all these each variables. Throughout from this conceptual framework, we have created this hypothesis as well. And finally, the conclusion. And this study was conducted to identify the determinant factors that can be impact with smart classrooms of students' academic success. So we have already covered that. We have find out the 5 major factors of the smart classroom. And this conceptual framework shows the importance and the significance of the smart classrooms. And we have clearly shown that in this conceptual framework, which can be highly recommending, and it will be, there is a huge relationship between each variables. And this conceptual framework indicating the determinant factors of a smart classroom, we have already told about that in the previous slide. This is describing which type of expectations are looking at the students of the classroom. And a smart classroom, students can have so many expectations, and those 5 factors are some of them. There can be many expectations, and it's all should be identified from the future researchers. And this study, the study is recommending this conceptual framework to use for future researchers. And this is only one conceptual framework. There can be many. So this conceptual framework can be helpful for the future researchers to research about the new era of the smart classroom. So those are the key references. One is by the Guillemot and Federico 2001, the Smart Classrooms Innovating Formal Learning Spaces, and this was taken as our main key past research article to take as a guideline for conduct the study. And also another research called Smart Classrooms, Architectural Requirements and Deployment Issues by Nishant Vishwa and Hugo in 2008, also taken as a key reference for conduct this study. And that's all about our concept paper presentation. Thank you everyone for hearing, for listening for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Malaga. It was really interesting. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. M.R.F. Akila Ijaz to present her presentation on the impact of entrepreneurial leadership on business success of SMEs in Akrepattu municipal area, which was co-authored by Mr. S.M.C.M. Aloysius.
Okay, good morning all of you. I am Mrs. M.R.F. Akila Ijaz, lecturer probationary in HR at H2 Vavuniya campus, and today I am here for the 4th CIPM Research Symposium, and the topic of my research paper is the impact of entrepreneurial leadership on business success of small medium enterprises in Akrepattu municipal area. So let us go to the overview of my presentation. So I just want to list out introduction, research gap, objectives, conceptual framework, methodology, findings, conclusion, and after that key references. And let me introduce my terminologies before starting my presentation. So as my topic is entrepreneurial leadership and business success, so I just want to define what we mean by entrepreneurial leadership. So entrepreneurial leadership is leadership performing in entrepreneurial ventures, and leadership also it is on a leader creating, identifying, and exploring the opportunities in an innovative way and in a risk-taking way. And entrepreneurial leadership includes some variables like guidance, cognition, communication, motivation, risk-taking, and proactiveness, according to David J.P. 2012. So let me introduce my other terminology, that's business success. So what I mean by business success, the meaning of business success, that is it can be financial and non-financial rewards. So like annual profit, longevity, growth in business size, new product development, and customer satisfaction. So let's say if it is in non-financial rewards, then if the customers feel that we are satisfied, then it is also key indicator of achieving business success. And if I consider the Sri Lankan context, so Sri Lanka is a developing country which provides guidance, support and motivation to the small medium enterprise sector that makes fine-tune the youngsters to start their entrepreneurship. And finally, that leads to entrepreneurial leadership. So problem statement, so most of the people engaged in entrepreneurship and they are succeeding nowadays in Akripati municipal area. At the same time, the people who are new establishers in small medium enterprises are facing struggle in achieving the business success. So and the failure rates of small medium enterprises are becoming higher. So according to anti-Lanka James Hayden, he noted that the leading cause of small medium business failures stem from the lack of entrepreneurial leadership. So the people's survival occupation in small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area, but there is a lack of knowledge regarding the entrepreneurial leadership. So I point out that entrepreneurial leadership among the Akripati community people should be enhanced. So this made me to continue my research. Because this research, I'd like to provide them the guidance to succeed in their business. As research questions, so I just want to tell some research question. Is there any relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and business success of small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area? And my second research question, that is, to what extent entrepreneurial leadership impact on business success of small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area? And the third one, are there any significant differences among the demographic variables like age, gender, entrepreneurial experience, the educational level with respect to entrepreneurial leadership in small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area? So my objectives from this research, the main objectives to find out the impact of entrepreneurial leadership on business success of small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area, and my sub-objectives are to identify the relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and business success of small medium enterprises in Akripati municipal area, and to identify any significant differences among demographic factors like age, gender, educational level and entrepreneurial experience with respect to entrepreneurial leadership. So according to the literature, so just from the field of literature, I just conducted the conceptual framework. So I consider entrepreneurial leadership as independent variable and business success as dependent variable. So under that independent variable entrepreneurial leadership, there are 6 variables. So guidance, cognition, communication, motivation, risk taking, and proactiveness. So guidance in the sense, guidance means so directing towards the productivity, directing towards the favorable outcome. Cognition in the sense, so it is related with the assessment. It is related with the mental model of assessing and judging and perception regarding the future aspect. So if it is a motivation, motivation in the sense is stimulating the people to do something. So towards a favorable outcome and to increase the productivity. So it is communication. Communication in the sense it describes the information, the needed information, and also that communication leads to a proper learning. So risk taking, if you take risk taking, if you just become an entrepreneur, so they are willingly taking the responsibility for the uncertainties which is going to be occurred in future. Proactiveness in the sense, so it is like before something happens, we just take some initiative steps to avoid what is happening, and so willingly they are taking some responsibility to accept the risk. So before something happens, we are taking some precautionary actions in order to how to sort out that issue in future. That is called proactiveness. So methodology, so according to my research, so I did my data collection was primary data. So I issued questionnaires with closed questions, and totally when I'm considering Akripati municipal area, so there are 474 small medium enterprises. So I went with convenience sampling, 30% of convenience sampling Therefore, my sample size is 142. So I issued 142 questionnaires, but I got 139 respondents questionnaires. So methodology, because my research objective is to find out the impact, so therefore I went with the regression analysis, and to find out the relationship, so I went with a peers and correlation analysis, and in order to check the demographic variable, so I just went with one-way ANOVA and independent test. And before doing all this, I just want to find out the reliability of my questions. So therefore, before everything, I went with the reliability test. So according to my findings, according to my reliability test, so all my front bench alpha value is more than 0.7. So therefore, I can continue my research. So the reliability is acceptable in this region. And then in order to check when I'm checking the correlation between the entrepreneurial leadership and the business success, so the value, the Pearson correlation value, I got 0.852, which is significant at the level of 0.01. Therefore, my hypothesis 1 is accepted. There is a positive, significant relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and business success. And also, I did correlation analysis for each and every variable like guidance, cognition, motivation, communication, risk-taking, proactiveness. So, along with that business success. So, therefore, all my variables pointed out that according to when I go through in the value, so it is all at the significant level. So, therefore, all my there is a relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and business success among small medium enterprises in Akrepati municipal area. And in order to check out, to find out the impact, to what extent the entrepreneurial leadership impact on the business success, so I went with a linear regression. So therefore, I got a 72.7 variance, so which is explained by those factors like guidance, cognition, communication, motivation, risk-taking, and proactiveness. So therefore, my hypothesis 2 is accepted as entrepreneurial leadership has significant impact on business success of small medium enterprises in Akrepati municipal area. And for each and every variable, so I just went with multiple regression also. So for that, I got the value for the guidance 0.184, for cognition 0.108, and for motivation 0.177, and for communication 0.083, and for risk-taking 0.254, and for proactiveness 0.208, which means if I increase the guidance by 1 unit, it indicates that the business success will be increased by 0.184. And if I increase the cognition by 1 unit, so the business success will be increased by 0.108. And if I increase the motivation by 1 unit, the business success will increase by 0.177. And if I increase the communication by 1 unit, the business success will increase by 0.083. And if I increase the risk-taking by 1 unit, so the business success will be increased by 0.254. And if I increase the proactiveness by 1 unit, so the business success will increase by 0.208. So therefore, each and every aspect pointed out that it has the significant impact on business success. So when I am checking, is there any significant differences among the demographic variables like age, entrepreneurial experience, and education? So I went with ANOVA test. So therefore, according to my value, so it pointed out that there is no any significant difference because the value is very much higher. So therefore, there is no any significant difference among age groups, educational levels, entrepreneurial experience with respect to entrepreneurial leadership of small medium enterprises in Akrepati municipal area. And in order to check, is there any difference, significant difference among the gender? So gender has only 2 aspects, that is male and female. So therefore, I went with the independent sample t-test. So that value also, it has a greater value. So therefore, This hypothesis is also rejected. There is no any significant difference between gender groups with respect to entrepreneurial leadership of small medium enterprises in Akrepattu municipal area. So my conclusion, due to the time bounds, I didn't include my demographic statistics. So, but when I'm conducting research, I went through that there are very less youngsters are involving in entrepreneurial leadership. So I went with the data. Then I came to know that most of the young bloods are moving abroad to earn. So therefore, the number of the youngsters is very less involving in entrepreneurial leadership in Akrepattu municipal area. And when I'm considering males and females, most of the males are involving in entrepreneurial leadership when comparing with the female. So the reason I just found that is the female numbers having least number because of their social cultural factors in Akrepattu municipal area. And then according to the demographic factors, educational level, if I consider the educational level, some of the participants, some of the person who is involving in entrepreneurial leadership are degree holders. But even though they are doing the entrepreneurship very well, they are becoming a very good entrepreneur leader. So it is for the reason they are telling that. So if I consider the entrepreneurship, so there is no any retirement in that profession. So they can be their own boss even in the last breath. So therefore, they are, and if we consider the entrepreneurial experience, they all have enough entrepreneurial experience. And the research from the operational hypothesis indicate that so the significant relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and business success. So therefore, the correlation, Pearson correlation value is 0.852. So it clearly indicates that there is a strong positive relationship between entrepreneurial leadership and the business success. And a 72.7% of variance in business success is explained by the differences in the independent variables like guidance, cognition, motivation, communication, risk-taking, and proactiveness. So, which means entrepreneurial leadership has significant impact on business success of small medium enterprises in Akrepattu municipal area. And from the ANOVA test and also from the independent sample t-test, so there is no any significant mean difference with respect to entrepreneurial leadership. So, and if I consider there are so many factors, there are so many barriers behind 72.7% of variant found in entrepreneurial leadership on business success to execute the entrepreneurial leadership in Akrepattu area, municipal area. Such problems are financial assistance, lack of awareness in the entrepreneurial field, cultural burdens from the female side, political and economical uncertainties, lack of infrastructure facilities, family problems, lack of support from the government and also from the non-government organization in Akrepattu municipal area. So entrepreneurial leaders, if we consider who serve a spark plug in the country's economy, so they have to in the activating and stimulating all the economy's activity. So if the government and other organizations come forward to assist entrepreneurial leadership, they can be enhanced. They can build the entrepreneurial leadership among the youngsters and also among the community. So therefore, our country's economy also can be developed, and that impacts for the young bloods as well as the country as well as for the region. And the research of my study is nearly similar to Anti-Locke James Hayden and Jeffrey Alston and Mohammed S. Chowdhury and David. And I hope you all enjoyed my presentation. So these are the key references. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Akila. And the next, I invite Ms. L.M. Jayasekara to present her presentation on impact of work-life balance on job satisfaction, a study of shop floor level employees.
I'm Lakmini Jayasekara, presenting my research paper on impact of work-life balance on job satisfaction, a study of shop floor level employees at ABC company. Moving to the overview of today's presentation, I'm going to mainly discuss about introduction in the research gap, objectives, conceptual framework, including what are my independent and dependent variables, then to the methodology, findings, conclusions, and key references. Moving into the introduction of this research, this study was carried out with an off-the-road tire and track manufacturing company. The company has a global footprint since it has spread over 26 countries, and there are 7,500 employees all around the world. Majority of them, means 5,500, are based in Sri Lanka. On the other hand, company has a male-dominant 100% male shop floor level employee cadre. Moving into the research gap, after carrying out 4 interviews with human resource managers from 4 sides of this company, it was identified that shop floor level employees are having productivity issues mainly on starting days of their work shifts. As the next concern, employee grievances on work shifts and tough work schedules were identified as a issue of this company. So finally, the employee turnover and retention issues were identified. So all these factors were identified with the association to work-life balance and job satisfaction as per the discussions had with these human resource managers. So it came me to design my research question as to what is the impact of work-life balance on job satisfaction. Moving into the objectives of this study, general objective was to assess the impact of work-life balance on job satisfaction of the shop floor level employees. The specific objectives are to identify the direction and measure the impact of work-life balance on the job satisfaction. Then, to identify the level of work-life balance of shop floor level employees. Finally, to identify the level of job satisfaction of shop floor level employees. Moving into the conceptual framework, my independent variable was work-life balance and the dependent was job satisfaction. So work-life balance was identified with 4 main subvariables. They are job involvement, work role conflict, job stress, and work role ambiguity. So, through this study, it was identified how these factors can affect the job satisfaction of an employee. To move into the concepts, work-life balance as the independent variable of this study could be identified as a dilemma in managing work obligations and personal and family responsibilities. So, the job satisfaction could be identified as how people feel about their jobs and different aspects of their jobs. Moving into the methodology, my first concern goes to sampling. So, to do this research and to conduct the data collection, I selected one site from this company with 100 employees. And the technique which was used is convenient sampling technique, and from distributing 100 questionnaires among all these employees, 68 questionnaires were returned with a 68% response rate. Moving into the data collection, with due respect to the deductive research approach, research ontology is organized under the survey strategy, and pre-tested questionnaire has been recognized as the tool for this data administration. So data were collected through a structured Likert scale questionnaire. Both the variables were measured with work-related factors which can be administered by the working company. So data analysis of the research was done through reliability tests, descriptive statistics, correlations, and regression analysis. According to the descriptive statistics of each variable, it has been concluded that the shop floor level employees at the plant have average level of work-life balance with 3.27 mean value and job satisfaction with 3.28 mean value. At the same time, this research has found that there is a strong positive relationship between about two factors, work-life balance and job satisfaction. According to the Pearson method, it was found that the correlation between the work-life balance and job satisfaction is 0.82 with respect to a significance value of 0.0. As per the ANOVA table, significance value is 0.0, where the value is less than 0.05. So, with these statistical findings, we can come to a conclusion with achieving our objectives, such as employees have an average level of job satisfaction and an average level of work-life balance. It means they could be developed through best practices which could be used by the company. So mainly, we can say there is a strong positive relationship between work-life balance and job satisfaction. At the same time, it could be measured as 67% of job satisfaction could be explained by the work-life balance. So with these conclusions, we can say work-life balance has a direct positive, strong positive relationship with the job satisfaction. So if a company can focus on work-life balance and improve the work-life balance of an employee, it could be a reason for them to improve their job satisfaction. So with these conclusions, I sum up my research as there is a strong positive relationship between work-life balance and job satisfaction. These are my key references of the research presentation presented today, and thank you all for listening, and hope you had a great good idea about this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jayasekara. It has been an amazing experience to have worked with all these talented potentials, and as fellow members, even we have learned a lot and we see a bright future in front of us. It was never an easy talk to bring out these presenters today, if not for the immense support and cooperation given by our coordinators and supervisors, as well as our very own CIPM staff. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to apologize for the technical errors you have faced during this session. After the technical sessions, we will be conducting the most awaited part of today's event, the plenary sessions, which will comprise of a panel discussion on the impact of HR strategies and practices on the success of Sri Lankan organizations. The industrial experts who will be joining this session from reputed Sri Lankan organizations will be namely Mr. Sunil Disanayake, Chief Executive Officer of BMICH, Ms. Prashanti Lokuhetke, Chief HR Officer of Sampath Bank, Mr. Sarath Kumara, HR Director of Camsa Lodestar, Mr. Sujit Jayasekara, General Manager of Brandings, and finally Mr. Jayanta Jayaratna. The discussion will be moderated by Dr. Chandana Jayawardena, the Symposium Chair. Plenary sessions will begin by 3 p.m. via the Zoom webinar. So please connect with the link we have already shared with you. Stay tuned. Have a pleasant evening.
Today, for the very first time in Sri Lanka, CIPM Sri Lanka proudly presents the 4th Research Symposium 2020 under the theme this year, Embracing the Changing Role of HRM. It provides a unique forum for HR practitioners, researchers, faculty, and students to present their scholarly contributions. This event is organized annually by the Standing Committee on Applied Research, HR Symposium, HR Publications Standing Committee, which is a main event and a red calendar note on the CIPM event calendar. With the sudden pandemic outbreak of COVID-19, the organizing committee of the Research Symposium has decided to bring the symposium online and creating history as the very first research symposium that is brought to Sri Lankans virtually. After shortlisting and screening the large number of papers we've received, we have chosen the best out of the best to present their research presentations with us today. We have mainly categorized all papers we have received under 3 categories. Category A will be CIPM members and HR professionals in the faculty. Category B, CIPM students. Category C, university presenters. As you all know, the technical sessions today are conducted parallelly. And I will be your host, and I'm Kavingi Pereira, and I'll be hosting Category B, the CIPM students category. To start with the session, first, let me tell upon the ground rules. All of you are insisted to keep your mics muted and also to keep your camera switched off. So let's start with our presentation for oral presenters from the CIPM students category. To start with the session, let me first call upon our first participant to present her abstract in front of you. So let's welcome Ms. Tamasha D. Valgama, presenting her research abstract on the topic, the effect of perceived supervisor support on the retention of operational level employees in apparel organizations of Sri Lanka. Tamasha D. Valgama, presenting you the effect of perceived supervisor support on the retention of operational level employees in apparel organizations of Sri Lanka.
Symposium Chair, Dr. Chandra, officials of CIPM, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tamasha Valgama, and first of all, I'm greatly privileged to be standing here today presenting my research at the 4th CIPM Research Symposium. So to start off, my research was based on the topic, the effect of perceived supervisor support on the retention of operational level employees in apparel organizations of Sri Lanka. To provide you an overview of my research presentation, first I'll be providing you a background to the study, and then I'll be discussing the research gap or the question which basically led me to conduct this study. Thereon, I'll be talking about the objectives, the conceptual framework, and the methodology, and then I'll be concluding the presentation along with the discussion of findings and the key references. So to provide you with the background to the research, as we all know, the apparel industry in Sri Lanka is one of the most prominent industries operative and contributing to the Sri Lankan economy. In the export sector, apparel organizations, or rather apparel exports, account for about 44% of the total exports of the country. And as an employment sector, being operative in the manufacturing sector, apparel organizations provide around 33% of employment opportunities to men and women in Sri Lanka. However, though they record profits in business operation, it is a known fact that apparel organizations are often met with problems related to employee retention, or rather in more simple terms, high employee turnover. Though there have been identified a multiplicity of social, economic, and cultural factors that has led to this low level of employee retention, one of the main organizational factors that has led to low employee retention is the lack of supervisory support that the employees receive within the organization. So, in such a background, this research has attempted to analyze the relationship between supervisory support and employee retention, and thereby understand the impact of lack of supervisory support on employee retention, or rather the employees finally deciding that they should leave the company. Talking about the research question, the company that I've selected to conduct my study on is one of the leading organizations operating in the apparel industry in Sri Lanka. However, the company records high turnover rates, which are more than the industry standard, which stands to be 10x. And also, through the exit interview forms, which have been filled by the employees who leave the organization, it has been understood that, or they have constantly mentioned that the lack of supervisor support or problems with their supervisors has been one of the reasons that they have decided to leave the organization. The main objectives of the study, the general objective of the study is to find out the effect of supervisor support as a major component which decides the retention of operational level employees in organizations. And the research is led with specific objectives to understand the relationship that exists between supervisor support and employee retention, and to analyze the reasons why employees think that they do not receive enough support from their supervisors, and to identify the underlying reasons within the scope of supervisor support which has led employees to think that they should leave the organization due to the lack of supervisor support. And finally, to devise mechanisms through which the number of people who leave the organization due to the lack of supervisor support can be reduced. With such general objectives, the conceptual framework was developed as the base of the study. As I said earlier, within the umbrella term of supervisor support, these four independent variables have been identified. The first is the interrelationship between the supervisors and the employees, and the workload assigned by the supervisors to the employees, decisions made by the supervisors, and the motivation provided by the supervisors. So in this study, the impact of these four independent variables will be studied on the dependent variable, that is employee retention. When talking about the methodology adopted in conducting the study, as I stated, the organization is one of the leading organizations in the apparel manufacturing industry, and this company specifically employs 877 employees who are employed both in the factory and as office staff, and they are broken down into 28 departments in the production process. However, the production actually happens in only 3 departments, which are recognized as the machine printing department, manual printing department, and the cable printing department. So in total, these 3 departments employ a total of 340 employees, which is the population of one study. And from these 340 employees, a sample of 70 employees have been selected through the random sampling technique as the sample of the study. And this sample includes both amateur employees and experienced employees. In data collection and analysis, data has been basically collected through a questionnaire which has been administered to the sample. The questionnaire contains questions on demographics, close-ended questions, and open-ended questions. After obtaining the data, they have been analyzed using frequency analysis to understand the gravity of each question. And thereby, they have been subject to statistical analysis of correlation and regression. The qualitative data that has been obtained through the questionnaire has been subjected to the thematic analysis. Talking about the main research findings, in the demographic analysis, the employees were first questioned as to their gender. So it is seen that within the sample, 52% of the employees were females. From this demographic distribution, we can arrive at the generalization that the company as a total employs a larger percentage of females than males. As to their age, it is seen that most of the employees are within the ages of 26 to 33 and 34 to 41, which is 40% and 27% respectively. So looking at this, it is clear that most of the employees are within the ages of 26 to 41, which can be recognized as a person's most efficient workable age. As to the duration of employment, 38 employees from the sample have worked in the company for a period less than 1 year, and it is only 1 person who has worked in the company for a period more than 7 years, and 3 people have worked from 5 to 7 years. So looking on these statistics, it is clear that most of the employees have retained in the company for only about 3 years, and they have not shown any status, the company within the sample, the company employs 61% of unmarried personnel, and only 38 people have been married. After the demographic analysis, the quantitative data has been analyzed through correlation and regression. The quantitative data has been obtained through the closed questions that was there in the questionnaire, and they were questioned on factors relating to the interrelationship, workload, decision making, and motivation. In the correlation analysis, it is clear that all the correlation coefficient has recorded positive values, which show that the relationship between these four variables and retention is a positive relationship. And owing to the fact that they are all above 0.5, it is clear that they all have strong positive relationships with the dependent variable, that is employee retention. In the regression analysis, which was basically conducted to understand the changes in the dependent variable to changes in the independent variable, the overall R value has been obtained as 0.976. There, it suggests a strong positive linear relationship, and the R square value in 0.952 shows that 90% of the changes in the dependent variable can be explained through the changes in the independent variable. And as for the ANOVA table, which has been significant at level 0, it is clear that there is a statistically significant relationship between the independent variables and the dependent variable. As to qualitative data analysis, the qualitative data has been basically obtained through the two open-ended questions that have been there in the questionnaire. The employees were questioned as to why they thought the supervisors are reluctant to provide them with enough support, and also what on their perspective can be done to foster a better relationship between the supervisors and the employees. So the data such obtained has been grouped or categorized into the four independent variables, which have been recognized as the themes in the qualitative data analysis. So looking on these findings and the statistical and qualitative analysis, it is clear that all the variables show strong positive relationships with the between the independent variables and the dependent variables. Through the regression analysis, it is clear that 90% of the changes in the dependent variable can be explained through changes in the independent variables. And finally, it can be established that there is a statistically significant relationships between the four independent variables that have been selected and the dependent variable. So concluding the main findings of my research, it is clear that the four independent variables are successful indicators of employee retention. That is basically the four factors I look in relationship, workload, motivation, and decision making. Because of the fact that they show strong positive relationships, they can be taken as successful determinants of supervisor support, which the company can concentrate on in devising means to establish more support and a better working environment. Through the questionnaires, it was understood that employees have a moderated view on supervisor support, and they believe that there are avenues of development for the organization by which they can actually increase the support the supervisors give for the employees to complete their work tasks. It has been predominantly noticed that the supervisors must maintain a better interrelationship with the employees in order to create an environment of trust and a healthy working climate where the employees will be working with satisfaction and motivation. Finally, the organization as a whole must take effective steps to overcome the problem of lower retention and ensure that the employees are motivated to retain in the organization in the long run, which would in turn affect or benefit the organization through high profits and organizational development in the long run. So with that, I conclude the presentation, and those are the key authoritative instruments that I've used in completing my research. Hope I made enough justification as to the purpose and the motive of my study. Thank you for your attention.
So then let's proceed to our next presentation. Next, we have Ms. Achini Rangika, CIPM student, once again, telling us about her abstract on the topic of impact of the green HRM on employees' engagement in the ABC food manufacturing company. So please welcome Ms. Achini Rangika to bring out her topic on the impact of the green HRM on employees' engagement in ABC food manufacturing company.
Good morning, all of you. I'm actually Liana and today I am going to share my research experience with you. I have done my research based on green human resource management, and I have found the impact of the green human resource management on the employee engagement in the ABC food manufacturing company. This is my overview, and let's go to the introduction part. A green human resource management system is a novel concept for Asian countries, also in our country, Sri Lanka. And in our country, the most of the organizations are trying to improve their production by minimizing the environmental pollution. And also, the top managements are always help to employees to empowering and also motivating them to find the green human resource management initiatives and also to engage those human resource management initiatives. In my research, I have selected ABC Food Manufacturing Company, and it is the one of the largest instant food manufacturer in Sri Lanka. In this company, there is a problem about higher resource wastage, higher packing material wastage, higher raw material wastage, and also in chemical, those are highly wastage. Therefore, in this example, you can see there is the details between among 6 months about the packing material wastage. It is as a percentage, it is 0.28%, but when come to quantity, it is very higher number of the packing material wastage, and because of this packing material wastage, product wastage, also ink wastage and also chemical wastage can be observed. Therefore, this wastage, the increment of production observed, as well as ultimately the cost of product also increased. The price of product also will be increased. Therefore, my general objectives was to determine the impact of green human resource management towards the employee engagement work and its relationship on the environmental sustainability in ABC food production company. And then my specific objectives are to assess the present level of GHRM practices and to discuss on types of GHRM practices for creating a green workplace and to study the relationship between employee engagement and GHRM system. And finally, to create a sustainable green practice to become a competitive edge and to improve the organizational brand image. This is my conceptual framework. I have 5 independent variables and also dependent variable. The independent variable is green human resource management, and I have categorized into 5 as green recruitment, green training, green performance management, and also green reward management. Finally, it is green work-life balance. All those independent variables are linked with the employee engagement. And these are my hypotheses. I have developed 5 hypotheses. Null hypothesis is based on all the green human resource management practices has no impact on employee engagement, and then alternative hypotheses are based on all the green human resource management practices has an impact on employee engagement. I have 200 employees in this organization. The population was 200 employees, and among those 200 employees, the researcher selected 81 employees by using a stratified sampling technique. In this 81 employees, both assistant level and also above assistant level employees are there, as well as the data was collected by using questionnaire, and the data analysis was done by using regression analysis and correlation analysis. When we move to the analysis of demographic sections, you can see the higher number of employees are in younger generations. They are in between 25 to 39 years. And also, the highest number of employees are male category. And then come to the educational level, most of the employees have diploma level certifications as well as the other employees have bachelor degrees. Therefore, most of the employees I have selected are very educated, well-educated employees. And also, when it comes to information of employee number in the departments, highest employee number can be observed in production department, quality assurance department, and then sales department and also stores department. Then we will move to the most important part of the research. It is regression analysis result. You can see that in green recruitment, green training, green performance management, and also green reward management, the significant values are lesser than 0.05. It means there is an impact in between those variables to employee engagement. And when it comes to green work-life balance, it is higher than 0.05. It means there is no any impact between green work-life balance to employee engagement. When it comes to coordination analysis result, you can see the green recruitment and green training have a weak positive relationship, and when it comes to green performance management, it has the moderate relationship and it is the highest positive relationship the research observed. And then come to green reward management, it is negative relationship between employee engagement, and come to green work-life balance, it is near zero, near to the zero. Therefore, it can be concluded that green work-life balance have no any impact to employee engagement. The results for this, because of the green, normally the top management of this company has always empowered to employee to do green performances, and they empowered to employee to reduce the work stages of this company, and they verbally appreciate these employees. Therefore, the green performances management is highly appreciated in this company. And when it comes to green management, normally this top management is giving day offs and trophies, medals, and also verbal appreciation and also appreciation via emails to the employees. But these employees are not motivating with this green reward management system. The employees are always expecting monetary value. They are always expecting monetary rewards. Therefore, employees are not motivated because of this green reward management system in this company. And when it comes to green work-life balance, normally this is a production company, as well as because of the production company, all managers, executives, and also assistants in production department, quality assurance department, the stores, they have to come to the work every day because this is the production company. All production are done inside the plant. But when it comes to sales department, procurement department, and management, some other departments, the manager can work within the home, work at home, and also the sales manager and procurement manager, marketing manager, they can have flexible working hours. But only these managers and others have to come to the work because of the production company. Therefore, other managers and also executives, assistants, they don't have much idea about green work-life balance system. Therefore, the relationship between green work-life balance to employee engagement is almost similar to zero. And this is my conclusion. The hypothesis 1, 2, 3, 4 are for hypothesis those 4. The null hypothesis was rejected and alternate hypothesis was accepted. When it comes to hypothesis 5, it is green work-life balance. It is the null hypothesis was accepted. It means green work-life balance has no any impact on employee engagement, and alternative hypothesis was rejected for this hypothesis. These are my findings. And first one is employees were not encouraged to have green rewards because all the employees are encouraging to have monetary rewards. They don't want to have layoffs, trophies, and medals like that. They don't want to these things. They are not motivated having these types of green reward system. but they are motivating if they have monetary reward system. And also the second one is employees have no idea about green work-life balance. Since this is a food production company, the employees are always come to the work. They come home. Only the few employees can work at home, but others can't. Therefore, they don't have any idea about green work-life balance system. Therefore, this the employee engagement and green work-life balance is zero relationship can be observed. And when come to the final one, the online recruitment is more reliable than the traditional recruitment. Normally in this company, they are hiring the employees in above assistant level and assistant level by using top jobs and also other social media. They are not hiring these employees by using paid advertisements and others. Therefore, the online recruitments are practicing by this company. Therefore, the online recruitment is more reliable than traditional recruitment according to the employees' answers. Those are my key findings. And I have one suggestion to future generation, and I suggest this research can be done. I have done this research in food development company, and another one can done this research for IT company or any other industry. And these are my key references. Thank you for listening.
We thank you, Ashini Rangika, for presenting your paper number 23 on the impact of green HRM. I think we learned a lot through it. So let's move on to our third presenter of the day, Ms. Dilani DeCosta, presenting the impact of emotional intelligence, emotional labor, and employee commitment on employee productivity. Please welcome Ms. Dilani DeCosta on the topic of the impact of emotional intelligence, emotional labor, and employee commitment on employee productivity. So let's now review her presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dilani DeCosta. I'm an executive officer working for SBB Bank. First of all, I would like to thank CIPM Research Symposium for giving me this opportunity to present my presentation research in front of your team. So my topic is the impact of emotional intelligence, emotional labor, and employee commitment on employee productivity. My oral presentation will go through these points. So starting with the introduction. This research explores how emotional intelligence, which is emotional awareness, emotional labor, and emotional commitment of employees impact their performance, and also their understanding of how it affects them. So researchers intend to prove the very relevance and relatability of this study to any given public, private, or NGO organization work environment, as all employees are shaped by emotions, no matter how capable, trained, resourceful, and experienced and knowledgeable they are job-wise. The readers will get an insight to the factors which drive employees to perform and what changes related to HRM practices should be done to derive better productivity levels. The research gap that I found while doing this research was, within the Sri Lankan context, there's less research done following up the concept of emotional intelligence. But outside the Sri Lankan context, there have been many research done on emotional intelligence within the psychological field and also in the management field. And also, when it comes to emotional labor, there have been no research done within the Sri Lankan context. But outside Sri Lanka, there are few important research done on the topic of emotional labor, as well as employee commitment. In Sri Lanka, there have been many research done on employee performance, but that variable has been interrelated with non-psychological related variables mostly. So I thought as the researcher that combining human resource management field with psychology will be important for the vast development of the field of human resource management. So moving on, my research questions are: is there a relationship between ABC Bank employees' emotional intelligence and their performance? Secondly, is there a relationship between ABC Bank employees' emotional labor and their performance? Third question is whether there is a relationship between ABC Bank employees' commitment and their performance. My research problem was why that ABC Bank employees constantly have complaints over their co-relationships, over customer relationships, and also why there has been a performance gap given their work performance. So emotional intelligence related issues have been always there since the beginning within this given context of ABC Bank. For example, lack of self-awareness, self-motivation, and understanding of others' emotions, lack of positivity towards work, fights among peers, arguments in between employees and managers, lack of courage to face change, lack of suppression or regulation of negative emotions, unhappiness without any particular reason to stress over, and also poor attitude about overall work life. So these problems related to emotional intelligence occurred more than among 70% of the selected sample on daily basis. Therefore, the researcher can justify, that is me, I can justify this concept as a genuine matter which related with daily work life. Secondly, when it comes to emotional labor related issues, there have been increased customer complaints in 2014 and 2015 and also 2016, and this research was done in 2017. So customer complaints increased during those last few years significantly, 65%. And also when it comes to emotional commitment of employees, that was noticed inconsistent work behavior and patterns, incompletion of work, and also lack of courage to work ahead of others or to achieve organizational goals. The above mentioned patterns were observed on a daily basis among 54% of the staff. And finally, to justify this research, when it comes to the concept of employee productivity related issues, there has always been a failure in target achievement, and this repeatedly occurred in 2015 and 2014. So, based on these problems, the general objective of this research was to find out the impact of emotional intelligence, emotional labor, and emotional commitment on employee productivity. And I have to mention that this case study was based on ABC Bank PLC Western Region. And as the researcher, I have kept the original name of the bank anonymous. And the specific objective of this research was to find out whether that awareness of above concepts among employees can enhance their job performance. When it comes to conceptual framework, I will briefly explain to you what these concepts or variables are. So to start off with emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman defines it as the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions as well as in ourselves and in our relationships. And secondly, I want to explain what emotional labor is. Ali Hochschild coined the term emotional labor and defined it as the management of feelings to create a publicly observable facial and bodily display to keep up with job requirements. Even though you may feel that this concept can be mostly applied to service sector environment, no, this can be applied to any work environment. And Miller also states, when it comes to emotional commitment of employees, that it has a state in which an employer identifies with a particular organization and its goals and wishes to maintain membership in the organization. And finally, productivity can be defined as that it is about the effective and efficient use of all resources. When I explain you the sampling method, so I have selected a service sector organization, one of its regions, which consists of 13 branches, which consist of total of 150 employees. And out of this 150 employees, I have selected 50 employees using simple random method, sampling method. And that would be a 33% of a sample. When it comes to methodology, so data collection is done using primary data as well as secondary data. For primary data collection, I have used questionnaire method, face-to-face interviews, telephone conversation, and also I have conducted online surveys, also direct observations and discussions with staff members. For secondary data, I have used printed references and online references as well. And also, I studied existing research written and printed on the subject. For qualitative data, I have gathered opinions, perspectives, ideas, workplace stories, and recollections of incidents. For quantitative data, I have used any primary or secondary data with quantifiable values mentioned above. And when it comes to descriptive information, the data presentation proved that there is a positive relationship between emotional intelligence and employee productivity. It was also found that there is a positive relationship between emotional labor and employee productivity. Finally, it was also found that there is a positive relationship between employee commitment and employee productivity. As you can see, I have given a summarized brief of all the statistical analysis results that I have gathered to prove my findings. As the conclusion, it was evident that emotional quotient is as valuable asset for maintaining productivity and performance targets of any organization. And it was also evident that emotionally aware employees could perform efficiently and effectively. It's important to create that ability to keep oneself happy, satisfied, committed, and self-motivated within themselves. Before I conclude, I would also like to present a few suggestions and recommendations for future research. When it comes to future research, I would like to request to continue the study using these concepts or variables and redo this study with a comparatively larger sample. And also, for future purposes, I would like to suggest and recommend to study emotional intelligence and its interrelationship with employee motivation, and also performance management, and also as suggestions to improve emotional intelligence, emotional labor, and employee commitment. I would like to present a few suggestions. To enhance emotional intelligence, it is very important to use it as a key factor when it comes to training and development. And also, it's important to test emotional intelligence, not just IQ, but emotional intelligence of an recruit during the recruitment process, so that any employer can see whether they are recruiting new employees to their organization with a higher level of EQ, because it is just as important as IQ. And also, to enhance emotional labor, we can train our employees, suggesting them which are not the proper and the improper emotions that we have to maintain during the work hours or work premises. And also, it's important whether you can provide your employees with job crafting method, that is to let your employees handle tasks that they are best at when it comes to handling their emotions. And also when it comes to employee commitment, apart from the traditional methods to motivate you to enhance commitment of the employees, it's important to provide them with emotional insurance and assurance at the end of the day as a manager. So before I conclude, these are the key references that I used for my presentation. And once again, I thank CIPM for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for listening.
Let's move on with the fourth presenter for the day. Please welcome Mr. Noel Indica Pereira, presenting his abstract on the effect of dexterity on the performance of machine operators of a garment factory in Sri Lanka. Please welcome Mr. Noel Indica Pereira for his abstract paper on the topic of effect of dexterity on the performance of machine operators of a garment factory in Sri Lanka.
Effect of dexterity on the performance of machine operators of a garment factory in Sri Lanka. My name is Noel Pereira. Father is Nidhi Kalwarachi. This is the overview of the presentation. When we consider about the background of the information about the research, this is related to a company which is producing garments, apparel manufacturing company. The focus category is sewing machine operators. So when the company is selecting the employees as a sewing machine operators, they are using the main criteria as a test their dexterity abilities using some kind of dexterity test. So when we describe about the dexterity abilities, it can generally says it is the coordination between the hand, finger, and the eye coordination. So the problem was, though they have passed through the dexterity test in the beginning of the interview stage, when they come to the actual production process, their performance in the means of efficiency and the quality, it is very poor. So based on this problem identification, we can highlight the statement to what extent these dexterity test scores have an effect on the employee performance predictions. Based on the above problem identification, I have three main objectives. One is to identify the impact of the results of the dexterity test, which is pinboard, marble, hard, and the puzzle sewing for the job performance of the sewing machine operators. Second one is to identify the most effective dexterity test to predict the employee performance. And the third one is to identify which dexterity test shows the highest results among the sewing machine operators. Conceptual framework is like this one. So I have 4 independent variables. That is the test results of the 4 types of dexterity tests, and those are compared with the their job performance in the means of efficiency and the quality performance as a dependent variables. When we go to the methodology, I have built up 4 hypotheses. Those are, there is a significant positive relationship in between the test scores of the pinboard test, marble test, card test, and the puzzle test with the operator performance. Population and the sample, number of sewing machine operators were about 700. Selected, out of this one, selected 76 employees for retest these 4 types of dexterity test. Data collection method. Data collection in 2 ways. For the independent variables, those 4 types of dexterity tests pre-tested with the selected employees and recorded their result of these tests. And as a dependent variable, those employees' actual performance in the means of efficiency and the quality percentage were obtained through the factory management information system. When we go to the data analysis, there are 2 main data analysis used. One is correlation analysis and the regression analysis. In the for the sample, descriptive information about this one, there are 28% male employees and the 72% female employees were in that sample. Also, their experience is between more than 6 months and the selected group. Also, this is a variety range, 1 year to some of them are more than 5 year experience in that category. For the findings, marble test is the shows the highest result among the sewing machine operators, selected sewing machine operators. That the mean value is about 3.25. Next one is the pinboard test, which recorded 2.96 mean value. When we go to the correlation analysis, there are 2 negative values and there are 2 positive values. That means the puzzle test solving and the marble test got as negative values. In that puzzle test, there is negative significant. Also, the pinboard and hard exercise received as positive values, but based on this one, either one of them not significantly positive figures. When we go to the regression analysis, R-square is getting about 0.136. So it reflects only about 14% performance prediction can be done using this dexterity test discussion. So based on the present study, R-square value is about 14%. That means 86% result, the job performance cannot be predicted using these 4 types of tests. So based on this one, intentionally, there are 4 types of hypotheses. Based on the result, none of them are showing significantly positive relationship between the test result and the actual job performance. Therefore, all 4 hypotheses are rejected. Conclusion: based on the analysis, only 14% performance can be only be predictable using these 4 types of tests. 18.6% of the result is not because of these dexterity abilities, because of the other factors which affect to the employee performance. So the conclusion is these type of dexterity tests, which I highlighted here, no useful to predict the job performance of the sewing machine operators, and we should not then in the interview stage should not reject them based on these 4 types of dexterity tests. When we go to the recommendation side, when we consider about the garment industry, it is an industry which is highly job specification can be seen there. Also, the people have limited work content allocation for each employee. Therefore, they have much opportunity to gain the skill with the on-the-job training. So instead of that rejecting in the interview stage based on the test result, my recommendation is they can further train with the on-the-job training based on our findings. This is the references of the research, and this is the end of my presentation.
We thank Mr. Noel Indica Pereira for presenting himself in front of all of us. So let's now go to the second session for the evening. A presentation done by Ms. E.A. Dulani Silika Gunapala on the topic of service quality and the satisfaction of Ayurveda medical tourists in Sri Lanka. A presentation by Ms. E.A. Dulani Silika Gunapala on the topic of service quality and the satisfaction of Ayurveda medical tourists in Sri Lanka.
Service quality and the satisfaction of Ayurveda medical tourists in Sri Lanka. Tourism is a rapidly evolving industry that has become increasingly competitive in the global marketplace. Health tourism as a business opportunity that has been recognized by many countries such as India, Malaysia, Singapore, and Cuba. Sri Lanka is well known for its holistic treatment as well. According to the Medical Tourism Association, medical tourism is where people who live in one country travel to another country to receive medical, dental, surgery, surgical care, and also for the maintenance, enhancement, or restoration of an individual health. As I told, Sri Lanka is well known for its holistic treatment by way of rejuvenation therapy through Ayurveda and also yoga at affordable price. So, the introduction. In healthcare services, patient are the customers. Ayurveda Medical and Wellness Service is an on-the-price business, and it has a great probability to achieve success and attractiveness through providing high-quality service to and attractiveness through providing high-quality service to come across the patient satisfaction. Healthcare organizations also consider the patient satisfaction as an important issue like other services. So, Parasunarman in 1985 conveyed that when perceived service quality is high, then it will lead to intensify in customer satisfaction. Justification of the study. According to the annual statistical report published by Sri Lanka Tourist Board, there is a rapid increasing of tourist arrivals after 2009. Then in 2016, there was over 2 million arrivals, which is an increase of 14% over last year arrivals. Sri Lankan government has identified the medical tourism as a developing industry. According to the National Export Strategy of Sri Lanka 2018 to 2022, as a new developed strategy, effort will be made to develop coordination, set up a quality assurance system, and build information about the treatments Sri Lankan health tourism sector about its target market. It covers Western medicine as well as Ayurveda and also wellness treatments. As a percentage, from 2014, Tourism Development Authority has introduced health purpose as a new category for purpose of visit as a percentage. In this beginning, it was 0.53. Then in 2015, it has increased up to 3.2%, but then there has a rapid falling down by 2.6%, and it was 0.6 in 2016. Previous researchers mentioned that both tangible and intangible elements improve tourist satisfaction, and that influence to tourist arrivals and also repeat arrivals, intention, and finding individual that intangible elements have a stronger impact on tourist satisfaction than tangible elements. With the glance of that, study the relationship between medical tourist satisfaction and service quality of health results. Objectives of the research to determine the impact of service quality on Ayurveda medical tourist satisfaction, and also to identify the most important service quality dimensions with effect for Ayurveda medical tourist satisfaction. Conceptual framework. Independent variables are tangibility, reliability, responsiveness, assurance, and empathy. The dependent variable is tourist satisfaction. Methodology. The sample is taken by tourist visits to 13 health resorts situated in South Coast in Sri Lanka, and sample size is 112 medical tourists. Sample method is convenient sample method. Primary data is collected by questionnaire, and analysis has done by descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, and regression analysis by using statistical sampling. Findings. Descriptive findings. According to the research, that the gender of participants, most of them are female, and also 51 to 60 years old patients or the tourists are the most coming for the treatments. And also the country is Germany, and also the education level, most of them have university education. Then correlation between variables. The correlation analysis showed positive and significant correlation among all countries. Regression analysis, model summary, and ANOVAs. The model summary showed that R square is 0.579, and it indicates that variation in medical body satisfaction is explained by service quality. ANOVA confirms that the model is significant in measuring the medical body satisfaction. Coefficient indicate that except tangibility, the coefficient indicate that tangibility, responsiveness, and also empathy have significantly and positively influenced on medical tourist satisfaction. Discussion. According to the results of the regression analysis, the model summary showed that R-square is 0.579 and indicates that variation in medical body satisfaction is explained by service quality, and there exists a significant linear relationship between service quality and medical body satisfaction. Coefficient indicate that except reliability and assurance dimensions, all other independent variables, namely tangibility, responsiveness, and empathy, have significantly and positively influenced on medical tourist satisfaction. Conclusion. The service quality contributes significantly on medical tourist satisfaction in Ayurveda medical tourism in Sri Lanka. Tourists' perception of tangibility, responsiveness, and empathy are important dimensions in service quality to enhance the medical tourist satisfaction. Healthcare satisfaction index should be constructed by each service provider, hence they could analyze by themselves. It would be supportive for the further rearrangement of the service. Thank you.
We thank Ms. Dulani Silika Gunapala for giving that informative presentation to us. And now we have next Ms. Nilanthi Matrarachi presenting herself on the effect of non-financial rewards on the satisfaction of administrative officers in state sector universities. We have Ms. Nilanthi Matrarachi coming up with the topic of effect of non-financial rewards on the satisfaction of administrative officers in state sector universities. So now let us move on to that presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Today, we would like to present our research presentation to the CIPM Research Symposium 2020. The topic is Effect of Non-Financial Rewards on the Satisfaction of Administrative Officers in State Universities. Author N. Matharachi, co-author Indika P. Halwarachi. Let's see the overview. Simply, I can ask one question from you. What is it? Why are you coming to your job? Actually, it's because of you want to earn something for survival of yourself as well as for your dependents. Isn't it? I think I'm right. Because today, money is the most important reward. Without having money, we can't do anything. But some people, they love their work because it is interesting and provides them to psychological satisfaction too, more than money. According to Lord Buddha, it has been mentioned that there is no greater wealth than happiness or satisfaction. When Wordsworth in 1996, he described with his two-factor theory, people feel satisfied at the workplace through two factors, which are called hygiene factors and motivators. Also moral. In 2011, he emphasized that there is an additional added significance of both financial and non-financial rewards. He also described one kind of reward does not accomplish the purpose. Concerning all those things, I can say
as well as financial rewards for their job satisfaction. Introduction. We also included so many ideas from researchers. Those all prove how much non-financial rewards are important for employees' job satisfaction. Concerning all those things from the literature, we found number of research studies conducted with this topic, and also with some of the private sector organizations, some of the public sector organizations, and also with universities, with university teachers, like that. But there is none of research studies conducted with administrative officers in state universities. That's why researchers of this study try to identify the effect of non-financial rewards on the satisfaction of administrative officers in state universities in Sri Lanka. Research questions. There are two research questions included in this research. One is, what is the relationship between non-financial rewards and job satisfaction? The second one is, what is the most important non-financial rewards for their job satisfaction? Research objectives. The general objective is to identify the relationship between non-financial rewards and job satisfaction. The specific objective is to determine the most important non-financial rewards method for their job satisfaction. Conceptual framework. The selected administrative officer's job satisfaction and non-financial rewards would be critically examined through this research. The independent variable of this research is non-financial rewards, which are achievement, advancement, recognition, and responsibility. The dependent variable is job satisfaction. Research methodology. Sample. Using random sampling method, selected the sample size for this study. Analysis method is descriptive analysis. Data collection. Through survey questionnaire, we collected the data for this research. It is 5-point Likert scale questions. Analysis. The analysis methods are correlation analysis and also regression analysis. Findings. Demographic information. According to this chart, we can conclude our demographic information like that. When we considering about the position of administrative officers, there are 46.7% admin officers who represent the registrar side. There are 28.9% represent the bursar side. Rest of the people who represent other category, it means curators, works engineers, legal officers in the university system. They are represent the value is 24% for gender. The female employees are much higher than the male employees. Female percentage is nearly 62% and male percentage is nearly 37%. Age group. We included 6 age categories to find data for this study. The majority are in the age group of 41 to 45 years. Qualifications. Most of the administrative officers in state universities who have university education. The number is 77%. Others who have professional qualifications like CIMA, Chartered Accountancy, and LAB, like that. Those percentage is 22%. correlation coefficient analysis. According to this analysis, advancement, recognition, and responsibility factors are strongly associated with their job satisfaction. The correlation values are 0.6, 0.7, and also 0.7. Achievement is moderately associated with the job satisfaction. Its correlation value is 0.4. The nature of relationship in between these non-financial rewards and selected employees' job satisfaction is shown as a significant positive linear relationship. Regression analysis model summary. R value is 0.851. It means which indicates that the model is successful in predicting element. R2 value, coefficients of determinator. Its value is 0.724. It means 72% of variation in job satisfaction is explained by the selected non-financial rewards. Regression analysis coefficients. This is the fitted model we found from this research. According to this model, we can say if one unit will increase by the achievement, job satisfaction also will increase by 1.5 units. If advancement motivator will increase by 1 unit, job satisfaction will increase by 18 units. If recognition and responsibility motivators will increase by 1 unit, job satisfaction will increase by 27 and 38 units respectively. Conclusion. With this research, we can say reward management is not just about the money. This research provides vital information about how non-financial rewards are effective employees' job satisfaction. According to this research, results shown that non-financial rewards are successful predict the job satisfaction of administrative officers in state universities. The responsibility motivator is the most important non-financial reward for their job satisfaction. Recognition and advancement are respectively significant for their job satisfaction. Achievement is moderately impact for their job satisfaction. As a conclusion, we can say how much non-financial rewards are important for employees' job satisfaction as well as financial rewards. If every organization can motivate their employees by providing proper mix of financial and non-financial reward, I think it's better for their betterment of the organization as well as for their employees' job satisfaction. Key references. Those are the key references which I use to prepare this presentation. The author is M. Mathararachi, co-author Indika P. Kaluarachi. My presentation is over. I would like to thank CIPM organization who gave us greater support to present this presentation for the forthcoming research symposium, and also I appreciate them. They approved our topic and our research presentation for this symposium. Thank you.
We now have Ms. Lumini Veerasinghe next in line for the presentation on the topic of impact of work balance on employee performance, a study of commercial banks in Sri Lanka. I now invite Ms. Lumini Veerasinghe to present her topic on the impact of work-life balance on employee performance, a study of commercial banks in Sri Lanka. Over.
Hi, I'm Lumini Veerasinghe. A few years ago, after I experienced busyness in my life, I have realized how important the work-life balance is. So, that directed me to present this research today. Impact of work-life balance on employee performance. A study of a commercial bank in Sri Lanka. Overview. Work-life balance is where work interacts positively with all the other activities important in life. Indeed, the issues associated with balanced work and family are of paramount importance to individuals, the organizations that employ them, the families that care for them, the unions that represent them, and governments concerned with global competitiveness, citizen well-being, and national health. We have all heard the term, and many of us complain that we don't have enough of it in our lives. Many social researchers have investigated this work-family relationship and turned to various theories to explain the consequences that follow from work-family conflicts. So I choose banking sector to the study as the banking sector plays a very important role in the Sri Lankan economy. Employee performance is crucial in the banking sector to cater the competitiveness of the industry. Also, as there are less evidence on how work-life balance impact on performance of employees in the banking sector in Sri Lanka, it is important to assess to what extent the work-life balance influences the employee performance. So, this study would collect some important findings on performance and work-life balance. So, the main two objectives of the study is to identify relationship between work-life balance and employee performance in the commercial banks of Sri Lanka, and then to identify the most important work-life balance factors which affect employee performance in commercial banks of Sri Lanka. The study explored and measured three aspects of work-life balance, which are work responsibility, family responsibility, and personal responsibility. The research model developed based on these three dimensions. The total population of the study would be 250 executive employees, and the sample of 50 employees was selected using simple random sampling technique. Primary data were gathered through structured questionnaire consist of Likert scale questions, and data were analyzed using correlation and regression analysis. According to the coefficient of correlation, work-life balance factors are strongly associated with the employee performance. All correlation coefficient, work responsibility, family responsibility, and personal responsibility show significant relationships with employee performance. The strongest positive significant association shows in between work responsibility and employee performance. Its coefficient of correlation is 0.385 at a 0.01 significant level. Next, there is a positive correlation between family responsibility and employee performance, and in this case, coefficient of correlation is 0.309 at a 0.05 significant level. A positive relationship shows in between personal responsibilities and employee performance, where its coefficient of correlation is 0.308 at a 0.05 significant level. According to the coefficient of regression, the highest magnitude represents the personal responsibility. It indicates that a significant impact between personal responsibility and employee performance. In this case, the regression coefficient is 0.384 at a 0.01 significant level. The next highest magnitude is 0.353, which is belonging to family responsibility, and it is significant at a 0.05 level. This indicates that there is a significant effect between family responsibility and employee performance. And work responsibility also impacts on employee performance. Here, the regression coefficient is 0.311, significant at 0.05 level. Finally, work-life balance is an important construct which can be used to enhance the employee performance. Managing personal responsibility is the crucial factor in work-life balance. Organizations should pay attention to manage the family responsibilities of employees. Work responsibility is also a vital factor in work-life balance, which affects for employee performance. It is very important to provide time management and stress management training for employees. Provision of family welfare policies is to encourage care for dependents, and leisure activities will assist employees to uplift their lifestyles. Organizations should consider work-life balance of employees to get the maximum outcome from them. Thank you.
Dear participants, just giving a kind view of the panel discussion coming up, the most awaited session, the plenary session of the day, which is also the most awaited session. After the technical sessions are over, we will be conducting the most awaited part of today's event, the plenary session, as I mentioned before, which will comprise of a panel discussion of the impact of HR strategies and practices on the success of Sri Lankan organizations. As all of you know, the pandemic outbreak of COVID-19 has affected many companies in Sri Lanka. So you need to know how the HR strategies and practices have helped the companies to success in their career. The industrial experts who will be joining this session from reputed Sri Lankan organizations will be namely as Mr. Sunil Disanayaka, Chief Executive Officer of BMICH, Ms. Krishanti Lokuhetti, Chief HR Officer of Sampath Bank, Mr. Sarath Kumara, the HR Director of Kamsa Lodestar, Mr. Sujit Jayasekara, the General Manager of Brandix, and also Mr. Jayanta Jayaratna, joining us all the way from Australia for this plenary session. The discussion will be moderated by our very own Symposium Chair, Dr. Chandana Jayawardena. So please stay tuned. And now let's move on to the latter participants. Here we go with Ms. Kalani Kollure, co-authored by Indika Kaluarachi, on the topic of relationship between training effectiveness and employee retention in tension with the mediating effect of job satisfaction, a study of nursing trainees of a private hospital in Sri Lanka. The author, Ms. Kalani Kollure, co-authored by Mr. I.P. Kaluarachige, on the topic of relationship between the training effectiveness and employee retention in tension with the mediating effect of job satisfaction, a study of nursing trainees of a private hospital in Sri Lanka.
I'm Kalani Kollure, MSc graduate from University of Salford. Today I'm going to talk about the relationship between training effectiveness and employee retention intention with the mediating effect of job satisfaction. And this is a study of nurse trainees in a private hospital in Sri Lanka. Employee retention has become a business priority in today's VUCA world, where sustainability of an organization in business is assured with the retention of well-trained employees, and most of the companies are judged on the basis of their turnover rate. In the introduction, I would like to say that healthcare is one industry that has heavily affected with the employee turnover in the global context. And as per the Health Leaders Media Nursing Excellence Survey in 2017, 61% of nurse leaders named staff retention as one of their top concerns. And shortage of nurses and student nurses has globally brought a series of challenges to healthcare organizations, affecting patient safety, and it has brought forth a lot of adverse effects in the standards of and the quality of clinical procedures and practices. And 60% of turnover has been observed towards the third year of the course of the selected nurses training school. So the research gap was identified as to examine reasons leading to the prevalent issue of retention of nursing students, as there's a considerable investment being made and the curriculum is equivalent to NVQ level 6 and job security has been offered, but it has not impacted on the employee turnover. And the selected private hospital is keen on the recommendations proposed through this research, and the findings and recommendations will be beneficial to both public and private sector hospitals in Sri Lanka and also in the South Asian region. And the findings and recommendations will shed a light in changing perceptions of superiors, adapting to mentorships, e-learning and stimulations. Even though factors such as training systems, context, financial investment and length have been studied in depth, ample interest has not been shown regarding the impact of training effectiveness on retention intentions. Research has not been done in the context of turnover of training nurses globally and in Sri Lanka as well. So the researcher wanted to quantify the training construct going beyond the concepts of investment on training, methodology, duration and the size of training and its causal relationship with retention intention of the training participants. Also, the researcher wanted to cater to existing research gap on effective training being conceptualized as an antecedent of job satisfaction and retention intention. Job satisfaction being considered as a mediating factor between training effectiveness and retention intention of trainee nurses. And the researcher wanted to specifically focus on the effect of job satisfaction on the relationship between training effectiveness and retention intention of student nurses in the Sri Lankan context. So the objectives will be to assess the impact of training effectiveness on the retention intention of nursing students and to determine the mediating effect of job satisfaction on the relationship between training effectiveness and retention intention of nursing students. The conceptual framework was earlier used in three researches conducted in 2014, 2016 and in 2018 by Huang and Hao, Terrara and Ngirande, and Choeni and Ndirende respectively. So the researcher wanted to see or check whether the findings had the same effect on the healthcare industry as well. So the hypothesis, there is a significant relationship between training effectiveness and retention intention of nursing students. Number two, there is a significant relationship between training effectiveness and job satisfaction of nursing students. Number three, there is a significant relationship between job satisfaction and retention intentions of nursing students. And number four, employee job satisfaction has a significant mediating effect on training effectiveness and retention intentions of nursing students. A census survey was carried out with 298 student nurses who were following the 3-year diploma at the selected private nurses training school, and the quantitative research approach was adopted. When it comes to data collection and analysis, questionnaires were used and they have been already tested and validated by former researchers, and it was measured on a 5-point Likert scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree, along with a biographical questionnaire. And descriptive analysis, frequencies and percentages were used for demographical data in a summarized form. Correlation, regression and mediation analysis was done using statistical package of social sciences version 23. And the relationship between the three variables were measured through Pearson correlation and regression. And ANOVA, analysis of variance, was used to find the significance level of the relationship between the variables, and the Conrad alpha figure depicted that the data obtained were reliable during the pilot survey that was used. So there were 14 questions for the variable on training effectiveness, 5 for job satisfaction, and 5 for intention. And the contract alpha figure showed the data obtained has been reliable. When it comes to findings, the findings for the validated the research findings of Choeni and Engrande in 2018, Terrara and Engrande in 2014, and Huang and Su in 2016. Correlations, it proved that there exists a strong and positive relationship between the three variables, training effectiveness and job satisfaction, and job satisfaction with training effectiveness and with retention intention, and retention intention again with training effectiveness and the job satisfaction. As per the regression analysis, in between training effectiveness and retention intention, the R-square value was 0.997, and that indicated a 99.7% of the variance in retention intention being explained by training effectiveness. And as you can see, the R-square, the adjusted R2 now figure is equivalent to the R-square value, and that shows the fitness of the model. Between training effectiveness and job satisfaction, the R-square value was 0.92, which depicted the 92% of the variance in job satisfaction being explained by training effectiveness, and job satisfaction and retention intention, 94.7% of the variation in retention intention is explained by job satisfaction. And finally, there's a remarkable finding where it says that in between training effectiveness and retention intention, job satisfaction fully mediates the relationship, because as you can see in the R-square value, it's 1%. So it says that 100% of the variation in retention intention was explained by both training effectiveness and job satisfaction. So it's remarkable to note that no variable other than training effectiveness and job satisfaction has any impact on the retention intention of the nursing students. And even if there could be other variables, they were statistically insignificant as per this particular study. So, being all 4 steps of Barron and Kenny's model satisfied, job satisfaction, we can conclude to say that job satisfaction fully mediates the relationship between training effectiveness and retention intention, and this was one step ahead of the 3 researchers I have spoken to you about before. So, as conclusion, we can conduct an as-is study with the same audience, keeping the findings of this study as a benchmark, and to initiate steps to bridge the gap by incorporating discussions of model findings, revisiting existing teaching methods, incorporating high-fidelity simulation activities, implementing and empowering educational model, and increasing supervisor support, and also to re-audit to assess the impact post-implementation of the above mentioned recommendations. And also we can use the Kirkpatrick's model to measure the training effectiveness by first step, which is reaction. It can be tested through constant feedback of nursing students. And the second step, learning, can be measured through continuous evaluation on how effectively the theories learned were put into the practice through enhancement of their knowledge, skills, and competencies. Third step, behavior. Their behavioral changes during and post-training could be analyzed. And fourth step, results can be measured through the percentage of students who have successfully completed the program, the grades obtained, customer feedback, employee satisfaction survey, quality or clinical audits, student turnover data, and through feedback provided at the exit interviews. So these are my key references, and thank you very much for listening and joining with me to share my views on this. Thank you.
Last but not least, everything comes to an end. But just before we end the session of CIPM students today at the Research Symposium 2020, let us call upon Ms. H.G. Tanushi Kavindi to bring upon the topic of impact of psychological contract on turnover intention with the mediating effect of effective commitment. Ms. H.G. Tanushi Kavindi, let me invite you to present the topic of impact of psychological contract on turnover intention with the mediating effect of effective commitment.
Good morning, I am Tanushi Kavindi, MSc graduate from the University of Salford. So I will be presenting my research on the impact of psychological contract on turnover intention with the mediating effect of effective commitment, the study of the teachers in an international school in Sri Lanka. So I'll be discussing through these areas throughout my presentation. Teachers are the most important asset to any educational institute. Each academic year, it is observed that a higher number of teachers leave the school, affecting the teaching process adversely. So one of the major challenges for the institute is to retain these high-skilled teachers within the institute. So it has become a major concern for the researchers and practitioners in this area of research. I did the research selecting an international school in Sri Lanka, which has a wide branch network spanning across the country, which provides primary and secondary education to its children. So the school I selected now has over 4,000 students with 500 staff, which includes 285 teachers. So over the past 5 years, the school observed a higher gradual increase of the turnover of the teachers from 6% to 20%. So as a part of the institute, I thought of researching on the effect with concerning the psychological contract and effective commitment towards the turnover intention with respect to the current teachers who are still working at the school. So I came up with the research questions, mainly what is the impact of psychological contract on turnover intention and what is the mediating effect of effective commitment on the relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention. So the main objective of this study is to assess the impact of psychological contract on turnover intention, whereas to determine the mediating effect of effective commitment on the relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention, and to identify the current level of turnover intention of teachers at the international school. So considering the scholarly articles and the findings, I have developed my conceptual framework considering independent variable to be psychological contract and turnover intention as the independent variable and effective commitment as the mediating variable. So based on this conceptual framework, I have developed 4 hypotheses. So the first hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention. And the second hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between psychological contract and effective commitment. Third hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between effective commitment and turnover intention. And lastly, there is a significant mediating effect of effective commitment on the relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention. So I have used simple random sampling technique in order to conduct my research. I have used the entire population as my sample, which includes 285 teachers who are currently working at the international school. Primary data was collected using a questionnaire. The questionnaire was distributed among 285 teachers, in which 193 teachers have given the response, out of which only 63.5% of the questionnaires were used for further analysis. Secondary data was obtained using journal articles, websites, and books. The obtained data from the questionnaires were used for analysis. So I have done descriptive statistics analysis, reliability analysis, correlation analysis, and simple linear regression analysis. So from the questionnaires, from the demographical factors that I have obtained, these are the characteristics of the sample that I have chosen. Most of the employees which I used are female employees, female teacher employees, and most of the teachers were married, with the highest qualification being the degree qualification. And the age limit who were more to be seen at the school environment were from 30 to 49 years, and almost all the teachers were under contract basis. And most of the teachers had stayed only up to 2 years. So using the questionnaire, I got the data and did the reliability analysis. So in the reliability analysis, the variables were tested. So as you can see all the Cronbach's alpha values are greater than 0.7. So since the values are greater than 0.7, the items that are used for the questionnaire with respect to the variables can be further used for the analysis. And this is accepted since the value is greater than 0.7. Moving on, since the reliability analysis is accepted, a correlation analysis was done in order to check the relationship between the variables. So as you can see, there's a strong positive relationship between psychological contract and effective commitment, as well as there's a negative significant relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention, as well as effective commitment and turnover intention. This correlation is significant at the 0.01 level. Moving on, finally a regression analysis was done. Since I have used a mediator in my research, I have used Barrel and Canny procedures in order to find the regression analysis to check the hypothesis. So as a step 1, I have checked the impact of psychological contract on the turnover intention. As you can see, psychological contract gives a negative significant relationship on turnover intention. Then step 2 is the impact of psychological contract on effective commitment. Psychological contract gives a positive significant relationship on the effective commitment. In step 3, impact of effective commitment on turnover intention was analyzed, and it gives a negative significant relationship. And finally, last step, impact of psychological contract and effective commitment on turnover intention was analyzed. In this step, psychological contract on turnover intention gives a negative significant relationship, whereas the relationship between effective commitment and turnover intention is insignificant. In this test, since this confirms only one step, it is partially mediating. So, as conclusion, all 4 hypotheses were accepted at 0.01 significance level. According to Barron and Canny procedures, in order a mediator to be fully mediating, all 4 steps has to be accepted. In my research, only the first 3 steps were accepted, whereas the 4th step was partially accepted. So, as a conclusion, I can say effective commitment partially mediates the relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention. With respect to the scholarly articles that I have referred, and with my research, I can confirm the effective commitment partially mediates the relationship between psychological contract and turnover intention. Here are my key references. Thank you.
So as all of you see, we have come to an end of the students category. But still, we do have the best out coming for you at 3 p.m. So as I said, we have a plenary session happening today with 4 of the HR pioneers coming in. So we call all of you to join us once again through the link of the plenary session, which we have sent to you all. As I said, after the technical session, since it's already done, we will be conducting the most awaited part of today's event, the plenary session, which will comprise of a panel discussion on the impact of HR strategies and practices on the success of Sri Lankan organizations due to the COVID outbreak. As all of you know, there had been a downfall in the organizations, but here we are today to talk about the HR strategies and industrial experts speaking about their experience in getting out of the pandemic. So today, panelists will be from reputed Sri Lankan organizations, and they are namely Mr. Sunil Dissanayake, the Chief Executive Officer of BMICH, Ms. Krishanti Lokuhetti, Chief HR Officer of Sampath Bank, Mr. Sarath Kumara, the HR Director of Camsa Lodestar, and Mr. Sujit Jayasekara, General Manager of Brandix. And finally, Mr. Jayantha Jayaratnam, all the way from Australia, joining today for the plenary session. And the discussion will be moderated by our very own Dr. Chandana Jayawardena, the symposium chair. So we hope to see you once again at 3 p.m. at the plenary session, which will be moderated by our Dr. Chandana.